All right. We're not waiting on anybody else. Apologize for being late. Nobody else is, this is it, right?
Nope, that's it.
Steve, Mike, and Bob is out. I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. First want to welcome our new members. Bob and John. You go by Bob or Robert? Bob. Welcome. Thank you guys for coming and being part of the authority. We appreciate it. First point of business would be to look at appointments for the coming year.
Right.
So I'll open it up for discussion. If anybody has anything they would like to discuss as far as appointments, or if they feel they want to switch roles, we will entertain that now.
Who's the current secretary?
We have a nobody.
Huh?
Was Steve.
was Steve.
Vacant.
Yeah, was Steve.
Step right into that spot, Dave. Really?
I got more to handle now being back on the rec commission. So that's right.
I mean, I guess it starts out, Ryan, are you comfortable maintaining chairman?
I am, but I'm always open to if anybody else would like to take over the role. And again, I'd open it up for any discussion, so.
I'll make a motion to keep things the way they are for, as far as chairman is concerned.
I'll second that.
All in favor of keeping me as chairman for 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I'll continue on as chairman for 2024. I would make the motion to keep Tom as vice chairman for 2024.
I'll second that.
I'll call for a vote for Tom to stay on as vice chairman for 2024. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. So we move to secretary. Does anyone want to nominate anyone for secretary, or would anyone like to nominate themselves for secretary for 2024?
Chairman, on the question, what's the duties of the secretary? I see we have staff here. What's involved with it?
Typically to take notes, minutes. I
Not
don't know,
even-
Steve did it without,
Yeah, I mean, I take the minutes, type the minutes. It's just a signatory if they calls for a secretary, whatever you're adopting. Some dumb documents might require a secretary's signature.
and was Steve on any of the bank accounts or check
Was
writing?
not, no.
Okay,
Your signers are Tom, Dan, and myself,
Okay.
and Jim.
On the secretary issue, are you allowed to be secretary? I thought we had spoken about this before.
I don't remember what your bylaws or your overriding document says. I can check.
All right.
Wouldn't be a problem
Yeah,
though.
I guess that would be my recommendation, is that barring any prohibition in the bylaws, that we let Cindy be the secretary for the Recreation Authority, since you're here anyway.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of
That's
where
where
I
you
was
were going,
going,
yeah.
at where the staff is here. And you are a signatory, right?
On the checks, yes.
Okay, because I run into that with my other job and it messes things up if a staff person isn't usually in the township. Okay, you okay with that?
so I'll make a motion to make, or nominate Cindy as secretary.
Second,
All in favor of making Cindy secretary, nominating Cindy as secretary for 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I just had another question. Did we clarify that she could be without being a board member?
Well, that's, you want to take a look at that in the bylaws. Obviously, if there's a prohibition against it, or it has to be somebody on the.
Yep.
Then we'll make an adjustment, but for now.
So moving down then to treasurer.
I'm okay with continue there. Yeah, sure.
I would make a motion to continue to have Dan Trump as treasurer for 2024.
I'll second it.
All in favor of having Dan continue as treasurer, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you all for your continued service. Appointments, moving down our agenda here, we have standing committee reports. First item is the Verizon cell phone tower. So
So
Dan, since obviously Doug is not here, if you can give us any feedback on that.
I mean,
the document's been signed. Verizon returned it. They are working through the building permit process. Another review of the zoning ordinance indicates that they do not need zoning, so that's a good thing. So they're going right to building permit and stormwater permit.
the only thing that I don't remember, once we had an executed agreement, do we get any money right up front?
I think it's the building permit that issues. it.
Once the building permit comes through, okay, perfect. So we're essentially moving forward, just waiting on that to be accomplished and then
I have a question. What is the exact location of the tower?
It's off of hole 14 on the left-hand side,
Okay,
so close to kind of the Turkey Hill, that plot of land.
and Nisley Road up in, yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
yeah, it'll be back. The access road will go in next to where the gardens were. So it'll follow that same parking road that came off of Nisley and go back down to it.
Thank you.
And how much is the rent per month or the lease? Do we know?
1875, 22,500, I believe, a year.
Yes.
22.5. Excellent. Thank you.
what's the timeline when they're actually gonna break ground on that?
You want to start March.
Yeah, I mean, I think as soon as you get outside of reasonable time.
And what's the construction process for that? How long does it take? Do you have any idea?
I probably can go back to an email to see what they said, but
I'm just curious.
I think it's relatively quick.
Okay.
I mean, aside from pouring concrete, letting it sit, erecting's not that long.
Was there any public opposition to this, like the school district had with their towers?
Done.
Okay,
And we had, we had it on the agenda, a number of meetings.
okay. Well, I figured that, yeah. Okay.
Now, not much on this, not much on this one. If any.
Any other questions for Dan on the cell phone tower? I'll move down our agenda here to the Finance and Operations Committee. Budget to actual report for November and December. I think, Tom, did you have any commentary on that?
Just, I'd like to take a look at the December report. If we could. And sort of get to the end or the bottom line as to where we are.
What are you looking at, Tom?
At the end of the report, page 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it looks for the year, what we're saying here is we've got an operating surplus of 96,865. Is that correct?
What it says.
We do have one issue that the payment from the township or from the rec authority to the township did not show as an expense, so it is going to be more of a break even than it would be for showing that.
All right. So it'll be zero?
It'll be a little bit less than that, actually. The loan payment was $142,812.
Okay. And then the 96,000 in the column for, I guess it's snack bar and banquet. Oh, no, it's not snack, yeah. Snack bar and banquet, our rental income. That's incorporated into that bottom line also, right?
Correct.
So with the 96,000, we pretty much broke even for the year.
Correct.
Now will the expense that you talk about, will that reduce our cash in the bank from five?
No, what is listed at the bottom as the bank balances are what they are at December 31st. And that payment came through in October.
Okay. So a break-even year on golf. Correct?
About that, yes.
With the 96, with the rental income.
Right around that, yes. A little bit of a deficit, but
Yeah.
not substantial.
44,000,
Cash in the bank.
43,000, right?
Okay, I would just like to have a clear understanding of, how we ended the year. As we look to fund other things in the coming months, parking lot, equipment, and those kind of things.
I do need actually a little bit of clarification going forward. It was discussed that the income from Verizon would go into a capital reserve account. That account is basically set up. We're just waiting for funds to go into that.
Mhm.
So I just need to know if you want the funds from Verizon to go into the capital reserve fund that's being created? And do you want any of the rental income to go into that fund as well?
In my view, I'd like the 96,000 that we're getting for the rental accounted for outside of the golf operation.
Okay.
I would agree there.
I think it'll give us a clearer idea, a cleaner idea of, how the golf is going.
So basically, we're saying all third party rent for blue collar, rent for Verizon go into this secondary fund,
Capital.
capital fund,
Yeah.
right?
Cindy, do you see any issue with that?
Other than the fact, I understand where you're trying to get to, but the whole point of having those revenues is to offset the expenditures in the golf fund. So putting them in a separate account is,
There would have to be an understanding that on months such as in January and February where the revenues are not necessarily as high as they would be earlier in the year, that if those funds are needed to cover regular expenses such as payroll or, that sort of thing, that it would have to be, those funds would have to be transferred and utilized at that point.
Well, and I'd have no issue with that. I would just say that I think when we look at the golf course and golf course operation, and when we plan and budget, we should be looking at planning and budget a golf course operation. And at the end of the day, attempting to make the golf course operation profitable or break even on its own operating situation. The rental income is a backstop. It is there. And that we understand that. I just think that again, when we look at figuring out what the goals are for operating the golf course and the budgeting, it should be done separately, not taking into consideration the extra money that is coming in.
Is there just a way to do that on our budget here to show tenant rental revenue and Verizon revenue outside of the golf course?
Not with the budget, because the budget was already approved, so it will show up this way, at least for this coming year.
Mhm.
It can be a separated item. for
So
the next
what
budget
you're
with-
trying to get at, Tom, is how it was kind of before, right? Within the township's budget, you had a line item of what had to go from the township to the golf course to support it. And what you're trying to find out now is the golf course supporting itself versus what we've done from a tenant and better improvement standpoint?
And there would be better tracking on that, just simply with the reporting process that we have, because you would see then exactly how much revenue was coming in from the
Right.
capital reserve.
Yeah, I mean, not that we're breaking even overall, but we can say, hey, golf operations lost 75,000 this year.
You would
But-
have that information, because we would have to bring funds in from that fund in order to make sure that the expenses are all covered, but that would be an item.
Yeah.
That you would be able to specifically look at and say, this is how much money we had to pull in from the revenue from Blue Collar and from Verizon.
And I understand the point. I mean, when you look at a lot of balance sheets, they'll have revenue tracked by the department, whatever it is. If it's, you have golf carts and greens fees in one department, but then third-party revenue or, like other things. So then you can really track what the trend is in certain areas. My assumption is that on the third-party revenue, that's going to be rather stagnant unless we have another line that we add in there from another, revenue generating operation. But then we can track a little bit easier how the, greens fees and things like that are contributing to the bottom line. So,
Right now on the last page, it is the 459 is basically all Blue Collar. It's the rent that we get from them, but then also we sell items for them.
and that's murky. I get that because the
So-
POS system.
Right, it's gonna be where it comes in, and then like that following month, it'll go back out, because then we reimburse Blue Collar for what we've sold.
I think to Tom's point, though, that the cell phone revenue is not murky at all. That is
Right,
very,
absolutely. It
cut
will,
and dry
it will be
with-
listed exactly but we could have it as a line item where it would be the tenant revenue. But if you wanted to pull it completely out into a whole separate account.
And when we pull it out and we put it in a capital reserve, that's exactly what the capital reserve is there for. It's to augment, the budget. I mean, we do it on a township level. We have a township budget and we have a capital reserve. And when we need money from time to time from the capital reserve, we shift it from the capital reserve over to the golf course. But when we plan, we're planning for the entire, we plan a budget, we plan it for our total operation. And that's all I'm saying. I'm saying when we plan and make a plan, have objectives and we set goals and we budget for the year, we should be budgeting for the golf course operation without budgeting for, I mean, we know we have it in the capital reserve, but we don't need to take that into consideration to get to a balanced budget or a budget on the plus side. After a while, there's a tendency to figure, well, we have money in the capital reserve that can be used. And, over time, the balance on that capital reserve, I'd like to see it go up, but it can go down. I don't, from a budgeting standpoint, I just don't want the golf course to be dependent on that. I think the golf course we've got a great golf course. We've got, we had a great year. We need to continue to have that kind of success in the coming year. And I think we will. But we need to plan revenues and expenses accordingly.
Yeah.
Just my thought.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd like the Verizon revenue to go into a different pocket or the capital reserve fund, and we can have that build up over time. And then as we have capital projects like the parking lot or stormwater things that we have to do, that we can look at that and see where the balance is and whether or not we have the funds to do it.
Well, I'd also like to see the base rent and the base income that we get from blue collar. I'd like to see that go into the capital reserve also. Just my thought. What do you think? Well, both of you guys over there.
I agree with you, but I'm not seeing why we can't determine that just from looking at the way the budget's set up. Aren't we gonna show those revenues? I mean, I know.
We should show it from a recreation authority budget. Yes. Yeah, we'll be showing it's just where and how we show the revenues.
Yeah, but we don't have a rec authority fund, do we? Don't we have a golf fund?
No, we have a rec authority.
We have a
fund.
rec authority fund.
Yeah, we have a rec authority fund.
And we have a golf fund.
Well, I think we're trying to get rid of it.
The golf fund will be completely done as of February 1st. There is $833, and as soon as we get the interest payment on the 31st of January, those funds are going to be transferred into the rec authority, and then that account will be closed. So
The
there
goal
won't be
was
no
that-
golf fund at all.
Sorry, Gene. The goal was to have the rec authority stand on its own, not have a reliance from the township.
Right. I
Siphoning
understand
over.
that, but I don't know why that's exclusive of having a golf fund. I mean, it's an operating department within the, just like water and sewer.
Well, the
something
golf
like
fund
that.
was
Well,
still the townships.
And that's basically what we would have in the recreation authority fund. You have a golf fund and you'd have a other income fund or a capital reserve. That's all. I just just looking ahead, like I said, from a budgeting and planning standpoint, I'd like the golf course focused on our golf staff and focusing on the golf course and not really worrying about all these, the lease side of it, although they're involved a little bit. It should be, in my view, it should be separate.
One of the things to clarify too is that the rec authority fund by itself is its own entity. There's its own EIN number. It's a complete separate unit, where the golf fund was actually the township's,
Right.
was a part of the township, and that is no longer. It is completely a separate entity on its own.
And just to kind of go back a little bit, I can understand about why we want to do that is because a lot of the revenue that we've generated from outside of golf operations, now everything's commingled, but a lot of the expenses we've had over the last several years have been things like, mowers, carts, things that we need to spend money on, and capital maintenance, things that have been long overlooked. But I think that having a capital fund that has a balance in it can go to things that aren't necessarily specific to the golf course. So i.e., if blue collar eventually needs a new roof, we don't want to have a $300,000 expense that goes right onto, the golf course expense. That would be something that we would take out of the capital fund. Things that, are on the fringe of the golf course, but might not necessarily be, golf course operational things. So having a balance in there, I think, helps us in the future with some of the things that we are going to have to start to work on down the road.
And it's still gonna show up in the budget, right? Like, it's still gonna be here as a line item.
It's all going to be.
It's just that cash is going to a different bank account.
It's just going to be separated but the budget is for the entire rec authority.
Right.
I mean, the Verizon obviously is all new money, so that shouldn't affect or really had anything to do with our budget projection, everything, right?
For this year.
Right. So we're not missing that money. So it really just comes down to 96,000. Do we want to be missing that from one account and just having it in another account?
Right.
My opinion is I could care less because it's fluid anyway, right? It can go back and forth. It's going to be used for the same or different things, but it's still the rec authority. So if we want just those rents going into that, just so we can see what I don't know. I mean, we know what it is because it is a stagnant number, but I mean, I'm okay with that if all those go into the separate. It doesn't matter. Is it more work on your end?
Just a question, is it possible to take that revenue line out of the budget, drop it, count the golf course, and then put it back in at the very bottom? Which would do the same thing.
Would.
Might be a simple way to do it.
On a capital reserve line, that's all.
In fact, let us work on the 2024 budget and present it to you in a different format. There's nothing that says you're not under the township code. You can do with your budget as you wish and just re-adopt it. That way, if it looks to your liking, then we can just move forward with it correct for 2024.
And I guess the final point I would make here is that the golf course operation lost $100,000 this year. That's basically what we're saying. Correct?
Yes, because that
Hundred.
revenue was supplemented by blue collars.
Right.
But you said what we owe right now is 140, right?
What was paid in 2023 was
Okay.
142,000.
That was debt service.
Right. That's not in here.
Correct.
So we ended year to date 96, which cancels out that revenue because that's part of that number. So we lost 140, basically. We lost that last payment from the golf course standpoint, Tom.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have to, as time goes on, we have to try to eliminate an operating deficit at the golf course. Relying on golf course operation to do that. That should be the goal.
Well, what do we have on these golf carts left? 3 years,
Two.
2.
Well, and we had a few of the mowers that we had to make some substantial payments that are.
Golf carts, well, I guess everything was expensive, but yeah, I mean, we bought a lot of good things in the past couple of years too, so that stuff will be rolling off before we have to put more on, as much on.
And some of that is, yeah, reinvestment into the property, so. All right,
We're good.
any other discussion on budget reports? I'll move down to the 2023 merchandise sales. Jim, do you have any commentary on that? You're on mute if you're trying to talk.
It's a lot.
I will move ahead. I'm assuming the inventory report for 2023 as well was something that we were looking for Jim for feedback on.
Correct.
I'll move down to our action items for the cash requirements for 2023. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns about what they saw in the cash requirements report? Anything out of the ordinary that we need to be aware of?
No.
I will go ahead and ask for a motion to approve the cash requirements for 2023 for January.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor of approving the cash requirements report provided by Gina, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Approved. We'll move on to the mower.
So Joe doesn't appear to be on, but Don is. If Don, could you maybe just give a brief overview of what you're buying for that X mark?
Sorry, you cut out. A brief what?
Just what you're buying.
With the X mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically what we have right now, the newer version, which has gone up quite a bit over the last 6 years or whatever, whenever we got the last one. It's just a rough unit, used to mow between all the fairways, under all the trees, all the outer areas that it gets beat up because it's working around trees and in all that rough area. So it's time to get a new one.
So we've talked with Joe in the past about ordering equipment, and there's a pretty long lead time. Is this something that, you know, we would expect to get in 2026, or is this something that you can order and get by the time you need it?
Hey, this is Joe. I'm here.
Joe, I think you told us that it was a pretty quick delivery on those.
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
oh,
My
ahead,
phone
Joe.
keeps cutting out too. We could probably have it within probably like a month's time.
All right, thank you. I see that now on the,
Did
That's
we
all
get
good.
any competitive quotes on this?
No, in years past, I've always just went through Hollinger's, and they do the state. Actually, the state pricing was better than the CoStar's pricing.
Joe, can I ask a question here? The
Yes.
equipment that we ordered in the past is the stuff that was delivered and is unable to do the same job. It's not the same equipment that we purchased and that either was delivered or we're waiting for delivery. It's a completely different machine.
Yes, it's a complete different machine. And what its duties are that it does. But it's not as much of a fine turf machine. Like Dawn was telling you, it does in between the holes, like most of our out of play areas. And it takes a pretty good beating because of just in those areas there's a lot of like basically the terrain and stuff's pretty hard on the piece of equipment. That one there I think was Dawn probably correct me on this, but maybe it's about 5 years old, and it's been a good machine. But we've also put probably a couple $1,000s into it. Actually,
Thanks, Joe. I'll open it up for discussion.
This piece of equipment is 5 years old. How much have we put in it this year?
This year the machine that we have now, the X-Mark, I don't have exact numbers. I think I know we sent it out at least 3 times down to Hollinger's. We was having issues with it. We had a wiring harness issue. We had to actually change the cooling fan. That actually might have been last year. We was having a couple of the hydraulic issues with it also that they had to troubleshoot and figure out for us.
Okay, is this in the budget for this year? Coming year?
It was for 24, yes, that we talked about.
It's in there
Oh,
for 22,000.
It's in there. Okay, well, if it's in there. And he needs it, yeah. I thought this was out of the below.
No, this is
Okay.
planned, for your budget year.
I mean, I'm okay with it if we knew about it before and we we accepted it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta,
On
you
paper,
gotta
we
kind of
paid
think that
for
we
it, I
want to accept
guess.
it again, right?
Make sure I put that up front next time.
Yeah. Sure. All in favor of approving the purchase of the zero-turn mower, please say aye, or sorry, I'll ask for a motion, or I'll make the motion to approve the zero-turn mower.
I'll second.
All in favor of approving the zero-turn mower, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you all. I appreciate it.
Jim, I'm not sure if you can hear me. We're moving to old business that has golf operations update. If you want to provide anything.
No update or any additional info.
I'm gonna circle back here up the agenda now that we have you here. The 2023 merchandise sales, which we talked about at our last meeting. Are you able to give us a little commentary on that?
As far as the sales, I sent out the email explaining all the expenses and what needed to be deducted out.
And I believe the last meeting I misspoke, said that there's miscellaneous things in that fund. You can see by the list, there's not. They're all merchandise expenditures.
Does anybody have any questions for Jim on the merchandise sales?
And
No.
what's the inventory on the inventory report? What's the bottom line? How much inventory do we have at the year's end? Guess I can,
It was like 11,000.
okay. And we had sales of about 68,000.
Correct.
That's a pretty good turn. So yeah, I think we're okay.
Any other questions for Jim? Thank you, Jim.
Yep.
We'll move to the parking lot. Cindy sent out, and it's in the agenda as far as looking at what the parking lot would look like. And I think you have a meeting coming up to get a little bit more detail.
Yes, the plan that you have in your packets has 3 sections to it. I was hoping for quotes that had the cost of those 3 sections. What you have within the quote is the full cost of the project, which is at about just over 180,000. So tomorrow, he's gonna break that down for me to do just the front one, which is primarily the storm water features. And then the first set of paving, and then the third set of paving.
That's the exact number that we had in the budget for paving or for the parking lot, right?
That was the budget for 23. We decreased that to 60,000 because we thought we didn't need to do stormwater.
Not making
Right,
this
but
public.
you're saying paving, not.
Paving.
That's paving. I thought we were talking millings and rolling.
That's why we took it down to 60,000, yes.
Right.
This is a paving quote. So I can have him do well, we just take out the paving number.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's still,
You got to grade it because of the stormwater portion of it. Do some grading out there. I think that the millings were to supplement where the paving stopped, which would have been just great and easy. But now we have to really grade it to make the storm water flow into the new stormwater basins that are being created underground. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put the millings in after you've
Right.
kind of messed with it. You could do it probably, but,
Cindy, are we gonna have underground storage or stormwater?
yes.
Joe, can you mute your phone, please?
Can't they use existing basins? Any water?
No,
Okay.
no, they took a look at that. They were hoping to put something to the side where the practice tee is, but doesn't work.
So rewind real quick. We looked at this because Blue Collar was looking at putting a deck in off of the side of the building. And they thought they were gonna need a lot more parking available to them. The deck at this point is
Off the table.
off the table. Does that have any correlation to the paving? I remember we talked about the need for it and we wanted to do it, but what was the kind of,
When I
Like-
talked to them the last time, couple times, they didn't say anything about parking being a problem.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion, just from being there a few times, and this is mostly later on at night when it's harder to see. I think we need to address something with how the parking is though. Cause it's
like lining or?
like, yeah, better lining something, cause I mean, I don't wanna say that it's a free for all, but it turns into one once you get a certain distance past where the lines are. So I think that at the very least, we need to, get it relined, spaced more proper to just, I mean, that'll help with getting more spaces in there, one, but
Well, you probably lose spaces, likely.
no, because right now in between the two two lots, you have 30 feet plus,
You're talking about the part that's not paved?
the part that's not paved.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's where it kind of gets
That is
into
a
a free for
free-for-all,
all.
yes.
And what happens is when you have a tournament going on,
Mhm.
people are just parking free for all out there and you lose spaces by parking free for all, but
Yeah.
then it's just a mess leaving as well. So if we had it at least lined a little bit better further, like all the way up, basically.
But you can't line it without paving it. You can't pave it without stormwater. It gets complicated.
Yeah, I mean, we can move the curbing a little bit or do something with that.
The curb stops.
Yeah. Cause I mean, right now you have the main line that goes up, like that you can see here, but there's no secondary double line, I don't believe. It's kind of just a park along the edge.
Right, yeah.
So we can add another side to that almost. I don't know. I think something needs to be addressed, but I don't know that paving is 100% the way to go if we don't have it in the budget. We budgeted what, 60?
Yeah. On the construction estimates, we're looking at 180,872 and that's for the yellow and orange,
That's for everything you see on that print.
including the blue.
Yes. It's my understanding. I'll get clarity tomorrow, but yes,
That include getting rid of the driving range?
I think that's almost gone.
gone.
No, I
But
thought.
does it include the demolition of
The
it?
use of the driving range, that takes your parking lot further into the driving range.
What does the cost estimate include? Getting rid of the, whatever, like the poles and the netting and everything, or
Those
is
are
it?
gone.
They're gone.
It's gone.
Oh, it's already gone.
Oh, yeah.
We had someone come in and just take the poles and the netting for the cost of removal.
What's the 341? 341 at the end of this third page.
Yeah, I looked at it, the 180,000 was for that first
Right.
closest one to the building
Right.
and all the drainage and grading and everything else.
To include the tan and to include the tan or the orange? It's not really orange, but
I didn't notice that before. It is there. Alternate
Nope.
A, B,
Yeah.
right.
and then the total. Yeah.
I mean, we're,
Yeah, I think it's 180,000 for like the lowest square footage of paving.
and
So three
that's,
40 want to get you the whole thing.
Yes.
yeah.
Ouch.
And that's the 180 is for the yellow or the
Yes.
yellow and.
Tom, I don't have it in color.
Oh,
But
I
I
don't
just-
have it in color.
It's not a lot. for
Yes,
180.
just for the yellow, Tom.
I think it's just for the yellow.
Yes.
It's everything, if you read it, it says it's
No,
everything.
no, but
here
when
is
you
the-
look in the, when you look in the further breakdown of the expenditures, the cost,
The yellow gets paved, everything gets stoned for 180, that's what that's.
everything gets stoned, okay.
It says includes stoning the entire lot and paving 892 square.
Yeah, but
yards.
that's all it'd be. We were just looking at the base bid.
Base bid includes stoning the entire lot and paving 892 square yards shown in yellow.
And it is color coded on the estimate.
Right.
It is-
So
Oh,
everything
that,
here-
that step 2 and step
everything
3 are
here-
for paving that other part, yeah.
This part,
Just
yellow,
gets paid.
Just
Just
paving.
paved
The rest
over
of
the
this
stone.
though,
Right.
in that 180 is stoned.
So it's
milled
still
everything, right?
So the parking lot size would stay the same, it's just
Oh, I got you. Yeah,
341,
yeah,
whatever
you're right.
gets you
Right.
the whole thing paved, which
Yeah, if you pave the whole thing, that's at 300 and some thousand.
open to discussion, but right now, it doesn't seem like we have a problem with the parking, at least from blue collar's perspective or from the golf course perspective. We could be forward thinking and spend the money to get parking situation set up for the future. If we wanted to spend 180 to 340. Is the way that I am kind of thinking about it.
Well, I would think with some of the equipment purchases we have coming up and everything else, that this would be a lower priority item. If we can, if we needed to do some kind of interim or temporary restriping or something like that, but if blue collar isn't asking for any more, and we're not hearing any groundswell of complaints from people that come to play golf or go to the restaurant, it would be nice to have everything paved and lined, but I think we've got more important fish to fry. With the concern of, we got some significant equipment outlays coming up in the next couple of years, so I would think that it might be appropriate just to table the idea and take a look at it maybe toward the end of this year and see if anything changes. That would just be my suggestion. Tom, what do you think?
I think that's a good suggestion.
I'm of similar mind on that as well.
Yeah, I agree. One question, though, we haven't had any injury claims or anything from using that stone lot, have we, Cindy?
No, the only thing we had was a recent break-in of a car, but no falls or anything like
Okay,
that.
that's what I meant, slip and
Yeah.
falls or, okay.
No. The lighting is not the greatest out there, I don't think, but
And we had a,
In the upper side, the lower lot's is better. But
Jim alleviated some of that with not allowing golf carts to go into the parking lot anymore, but there was a bag drop situation that I think has worked itself out to the most part. All right, any other discussion about the parking lot? Did we all agree we can table that conversation?
now you said, Cindy, you're meeting with them tomorrow
I am. Not,
to review this bid or?
not specifically, no. It was just gonna be part of the conversation. But at least it's been designed and you know what you have to do when you're ready to do it.
Excellent.
I will move down to blue collar 2024 initiatives. Pizza oven and outdoor events. I think the outdoor events, we have a playbook in place for that as far as the insurance liability waiver.
That's all been
and-
worked out. He just has to submit the paperwork. And I just bring it to your attention that he wants to put a pizza oven in. He wants to utilize the small banquet room, a portion of that as the pizza place.
He's already renting that, right?
He bought the equipment. Yeah, that's part of his lease. Yes. Yeah. It's really nothing that you have to approve. It's just information.
Okay. It's gonna be two separate I'm just curious, two separate restaurants, or is it like they're gonna,
They're gonna
You-
serve pizza in the restaurant and have it to go.
Nice for the golf course.
His ultimate goal is to actually maybe put amusement things in there as well, to maybe like a party room kind of thing. Just thinking about that, but
that's where they have most of their larger events though, right?
he said they rarely use that middle room.
Oh, the middle room, okay.
Middle
It's
room,
kind of like
yeah.
I'm thinking of where they have the
Yeah,
bank,
the
like for the
extension,
golf
like
things.
the first door out from the kitchen there.
Yeah.
is normally
The
closed off.
in-between, yeah,
But you
okay.
can open it up to like add another, what, 60 to 50 to 60 people
Yeah.
maybe?
He said it's, you can't really have a separate function in there because of sound,
Okay.
carrying sound.
But- Was there not a pizza oven in that place?
There was,
That was taken out, right?
yes,
Mm, man.
2 of them actually.
Yeah.
I don't think it worked.
No,
from
I don't believe, well, it hadn't been
It
used for
hadn't been
years and
used in a
years.
while, yeah.
That and the walk-in freezer, or I remember was like
Mhm.
a big sticking point, so.
All building modifications are on him, right?
Yes. Yeah, he's gotta do some plumbing,
Fencing.
electric and,
Insurance?
I mean, whatever they purchase will be covered by them until they move or break the lease. As far as the venting, the plumbing, they're gonna have to hire a third party to do that, so there'll be insurance from whoever that is. You know, none of them are licensed to do that, so. Yeah, insurance should all be there.
All right. Moving down, goals and objectives for the golf course. So we're moving on a couple of things beginning of the year. I think goal setting is important. I don't want to continue to glaze over that as a point of our meeting. So I think for 2023, we had a couple of things that we were working on. Some of them came to fruition, some of them did not. The deck was probably one of the bigger ones. Not because of the rec authority, but just how things happened. Cell phone tower. Dan, thank you again for getting all that and going back and forth. So for 2024, I would say it's healthy to have a conversation about what our goals are for the year as far as what we want to accomplish. So I'll open it up for discussion or open it up for brainstorming, and we can continue our discussion throughout the next couple of meetings, but
Well, just to put it out there, we are thinking about rezoning the front of the property to commercial business. And in my view, we should be moving that along as quickly as we can so that we can market that property out front. Again, before we can do it, really much do anything, somebody needs to speak, I think, to Joe and Jim about what are we gonna do with the building?
Mhm.
And that might be the first step.
the maintenance building.
Yeah, maintenance building.
I think did we talk about one time, like, if there was maintenance that had to be done to that building anytime soon, like, then it would just be,
Scrapped.
well, not saying scrapped, but gives us a better reason to
good question for Joe.
put it somewhere else, you know?
Yeah, but I think this, first half of the year is when we should, start to move this along, with not that we were waiting for the election to happen, but, that's over.
And remind me, the next step in that process, which we started, was to, I guess, have that go in front of the Board of Supervisors or the zoning board.
Zoning
What was the next step
Board of
on?
Supervisors.
And ask for approval to rezone it, and then that goes to the zoning board.
Well,
That's,
it's a formal process. And it would be my recommendation that we approach this the same way any business or enterprise would approach it. We have a plan, what we need, and we go through the normal zoning request process with the board and see where it goes from there.
is any of that, I remember, I think what Mike recommended that we go to the local residents and make them aware of it or post anything on the website. Would that
We
be
had
part of the
done that.
process, or
We did that.
Yeah,
Yeah, done that.
yeah, I think we
do we
did
have
all
to
that.
refresh that since we took our time?
I mean, I don't know that we need to because
I
we're
asked the
not,
board.
yeah, I mean, we're not rezoning it to, I don't want to say not to do something, we're not rezoning it with having something already there. We're just getting one step ahead so that it is more marketable if we wanted to do something. Because at this point, we're going to somebody saying, hey, we have this lovely property that's not zoned yet, you know, has all these steps yet, but we want them to commit to investing in it, right?
I think it would be better to have a plan. And if we think that there's gonna be some kind of controversy with the plan, then we go back to the residents and just to make them aware of it and see where they are. But I think we should have an idea what we want to do first. I mean, from a zoning standpoint, it's zoned recreation now. With the commercial, is it community business? Isn't that what
I
we,
think that the CBC was what you were,
CBC is what we were looking at? It still allows for recreation, but it also allows for some business opportunities. And I think that's what we're looking for.
So I remember going back to our initial discussion on this, and I think that was the most well-attended meeting we ever had as far as public comment was concerned. But I think the debate that we had, and it was an internal debate and also with the public, was there was two schools of thought. One was we wanted to get the zoning changed first so we could figure out what it was that we could do. And then the other thought was, let's figure out what we can do and then change the zoning. And I just remember Mike saying you want the zoning to be changed first, because then you can market it and then you can figure out what the appetite is for what's there. And you have the ability then to say, well, if it's, and by no means is this what I'm recommending, but if it was a gas station, a bank, or like an office complex, and let's say we didn't want any of those three options, then we were, okay, we changed the zoning, but we're just gonna keep it as is. As opposed to, we really want to put, again, not my recommendation, but let's say a brewery or something there, and there was no appetite for that, but we changed the zoning specifically to that. So I'm not saying one way or the other way. I'm opening that up to discussion that, do we see either a better path for that to become a revenue generating piece of property, or do we, what's the consensus on how we want to go about that? And that's what I want to open that discussion back up, because it has probably been 8 months since we had 5 people
I agree
here
with
talking about it.
what Mike
so.
was saying, like, it's appealing to only those right now that it's zoned for. So if we go out and do a market search for those that are interested, it would be narrow. Or you would have those that are interested that won't give us any yes or no answer, right? Or idea until it's rezoned, right? So I think even though we don't have an idea of what we're going to do with it, the zoning change that we would be looking at allows us to not have to change it at all, just gives us the opportunity to sell a product that we don't have now.
And it gives you a wide range of options.
Right.
There's a lot of things you can do on it. And I think that's what a developer would be looking for.
And I remember now, I think that the blockade there was that with the zoning now, we didn't have a third party that we could go to market it for us. Because right now, I think we can't go to like a commercial person and say, hey, we have a, you know, XYZ plot that we want to find a tenant for. Right now, I think we had to change the zoning first before we could go to a person like that.
Right.
From what I remember, again,
Well,
it's been a while.
Again, because
no one's gonna commit money until they know that they can do.
I think we could still go to that third party, but they still have to disclose that it's zoned recreational. So anybody that's looking at it is like, well, come back to me when it's
Exactly.
something that I can use it
That-
for.
That's what I remember. I think they said you have to get, you got to get the zoning changed first before we're really gonna do any heavy lifting.
Well, right,
for you.
because they're not gonna be able to bring a good product to the table if we don't have that done first. Like basically they're saying, we can do our job, but you're not letting us do it.
Well, I just want to put a thought out there. You know, you really should have an idea, at least what's the best zoning district for that. I mean, you don't want to change it to something that could turn into a real, Donnybrook with the residents. And, I'd have to go back and look at the zoning book again to look at, the district you mentioned. But I think that gives you parameters on what someone can go out and sell. Would you say a community business?
Community business, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it gives you a number of options. I think there's 5 or 6.
Mhm.
We're not gonna build homes there. We're not gonna, or it may even, it could even allow something like over at, where Ciro's is.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That mixed use.
Yeah. And that's probably another thing I was thinking of. You probably don't want to do a lot of paving until you figure out, is that going to be shared parking? I think it's good we delayed that paving because you don't want it ripped up 3 years from now or 4 years from now.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about when we were looking initially at doing, I think, a convenience store or a gas station, is we didn't want to do a lot of property improvements on that side of the property because, and that was a very initial discussion, but I would agree with you. I think we need to figure out what's going to happen with that front lot, if anything, before, we do anything on the parking lot. But the other part was we wanted to be able to go out to somebody else who would bring us ideas that we would say whether or not we were interested, as opposed to having to self-source those as a rec authority for who the tenants would be. Because before Blue Collar, we had 5 or 6 presentations from different people on what to do with the banquet building, and I think just having a third party have that aspect of it and bring us kind of what their best ideas would be ideal, but so I think is a discussion then that we want to have the zoning come first and then.
Well, I think the first discussion we have is with Joe and Jim about the building.
Yeah.
And, get some ideas on that. That's gonna take 90 to 120 days to get sort of sorted out, I think. If we even have a good spot for it, but, again, I don't know what the options might be. And then sort of concurrently, and we don't have to do this month, but, then eventually we want to get the dialogue going about the zoning change.
And what does that all entail? Like, does that involve getting a lawyer involved too, or is it just
Well, we
a
have.
simple
Yeah, we'll
application
need,
type?
we want to do an application just like a regular new business coming to town.
Well, Tom, I've never been in new
We
business.
have
in town.
two resident experts here now in the building.
All right.
Help figure that out.
I think that in the same token, when we do that, though, we should probably utilize either one of the committees that we have or a separate committee to work on pushing that stuff where it needs to go. Unless somebody,
Thought that was you. I thought you were on the.
I thought lease negotiating and real estate,
well,
that's you.
we can certainly go that route.
Cell tower's done now, Dan. Come on.
But I mean, I think Doug did say last meeting that he would jump on that with me because my co-parts
Who?
have.
He's already in parentheses, so he's already on the.
I already put
committee.
him on.
Yeah, but he's not on the one online. I don't know why. I did see that, and then I was wondering what was going on, like if there was an announcement that was being made.
Let me fix that for you.
But I would agree, Tom. I think finding a home for the maintenance building. And I know, Dave, we talked about this in years past about wanting to get out in front of moving that beforehand. But I think finding a home for that first, what works for the crew, and then as far as utility lines and things like that go. And we can find out how feasible it is to move it and what that's gonna entail. And then we can start on the zoning.
I remember we had some discussion also about when Mike was really active on it, that do we make part of the condition of the lease that the tenant is responsible for demolishing the building and and moving it over.
That was.
The
yeah.
whole idea is, do we have the money to do any kind of significant capital improvements to the facility, to the ground? Or does it make more sense to just not have quite the same amount of rental income? And balance that off to see, because I don't see how, from my crystal ball, from what I'm looking at down the road, where we're gonna have, $300,000 or $400,000 to go through and knock a building down and build another one and do all those site utilities and everything else. I think we have to rely on an innovative tenant to come in and recognize they're gonna do something and bear that cost. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that's what we talked about, is we wanted that to be part of the conversation, so.
Tom, what are your thoughts on that?
I think your thoughts are right on. Any way you look at this, it's a 2 or 3 year project, no doubt. It's not gonna happen quickly. So it'll take some time. And there's lots of ways to do it. Do I think somebody's gonna come in and move our building for us? I'm thinking probably not, but that's a possibility,
They might knock it down
Yeah.
and haul it away,
Yeah,
because I don't think that building's worth rebuilding somewhere else.
and I remember, I think, I had no idea about construction costs, but I remember talking about knocking down the banquet facility, and Mike O'Brien said, we can knock that down for 20,000, it costs $20,000 to demolish that building, so I don't think getting rid of it is the big expense, it's the replacing it, which they might see that as, but again, we're talking about a hypothetical deal with a hypothetical tenant, so I think right now we talk with Joe and Jim, figure out what they think is best, and then go from there, and then shop it, wait for a tenant, get the right deal, we've been through that game before as far as how long the lead time is on that, so. All right, so I'm gonna move on. Any other goals, objectives for the golf course for this year? Or the future?
Did we have any input from Jim and Joe or Cindy? For the goals?
I think the next one down is where Jim and Joe
Okay.
on the pro shop and the maintenance. But yeah, Jim, Joe, do you guys have any objectives, goals for the year for specifically to the golf course?
Just the ones listed in our section.
Jim, a question for you. On your outings, how much more room do you have for additional outings, would you think? I know you have I believe you have quite a few now, but is that a business that you can see expanding in some way?
Yeah, this year John's putting together quite a few in-house events. And then, weekends we want to stay away from outings, but weekday we can, where we don't have leagues going on, we definitely can look at pushing a few more, but we do so many. There's not a huge growth opportunity there.
About how many outings did you do that in 23? Could you give us a number?
Roughly around 40.
Okay, let's,
And Jim, out of those 40, how many were 4-season tournaments?
4 seasons, we did 4 this year.
Yeah.
And John's already put together a schedule for this coming year. So we're trying to do one once a month or at least once a quarter.
Perfect.
good.
Jim, can I ask you one question?
Just one.
Just one. So
Mhm.
Steve was on the golf simulator committee for a time. And now that Steve's gone, I want to ask if you had your option about whether or not you could have a golf simulator either in the barn or down like adjacent to the snack bar, is that something that you think you would be for or against in general?
In general, I mean, it would obviously be advantageous, but I think more so for blue collar because the revenue from food and beverage sales. I think the golf simulator alone, you'd take probably 2 to 3 years just to recoup the cost to put it in.
Okay.
You know, there's not a lot of incremental revenue that you can pull from it.
So if you had to come down one way or the other, Jim, good idea or bad idea?
Bad idea.
Okay.
All right. Any other goals, objectives for the golf course, pro shop, or maintenance area? Joe, or Jim, I see Joe dropped off. Do you know if he had anything to add on the maintenance side?
Nah, just the ones we have listed. We've already started the tree work. He's gotten quite a few trees about. Don might be able to speak to that more, but I believe we had 11 trees taken down so far. And then we've got quite a few more that we're gonna have pruned up. But there's probably, I would have to imagine, close to 50 trees that need to come down that are dying.
Yeah.
That's just gonna be an ongoing expense.
I know that there's a bunch of trees coming down. Have we planted any new ones?
Well, I think first we want to get the ones taken down, and then we can strategically place trees where we, you know, will benefit as far as improving the layout of the hole and the difficulty.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna write simulator off our ongoing agenda. New business, the SEK audit proposal for 2023. Cindy, I think you said in your email that this was something that we weren't gonna
Correct.
review tonight, but
If there's questions, fine, but we just got it in. The agenda was not advertised to include it, so we can't really take action on it. I think they probably need some sort of endorsement from the rec authority, which will have to happen in February.
at the next meeting, got it.
Did you receive multiple proposals?
No,
Okay,
SEK has been doing our audit with the township for quite some time.
okay,
They're familiar with the golf course.
okay.
At first glance, was there anything that,
It's high, but so is everything else.
yeah,
My understanding with conversations too is that partially that's the first year. That they have to get everything set up and
I understand
everything
that.
into the system, so it does just take them more time. But I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make going forward, but that was my understanding
It
in
makes
discussions
sense.
with Tina.
They gave us a supplemental estimate on that, I think, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
twelve
that was
thousand
outside
per
of that
year
other
and
number,
then
right?
somewhere between 3 and 6.
any questions about the audit? Well, review it in the next month and we'll talk about it at the next meeting. Moving on, minutes from the previous meeting. Anybody have any questions, comments about the minutes from the previous meeting that happened in November? I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes from November 30th of 2023.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor of approving the minutes from November 30th, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I will open it up now for any public comment.
Betsy's iPad is Joe Vosnock. Mr. Vosnock, do you have any comments?
See, she did for us.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Vosnock.
Budget.
Tell your son Nick I said hello.
Bobby.
I will do that.
No need for executive session. I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.